The neighboring house. Ethan and his family had been searching for peace. After years of city chaos, he finally bought an old countryside house, quiet, surrounded by forest, the kind of place people said you could breathe again. The house was charming in its own way, though a little too cheap for how big it was. The realtor brushed it off. It's just old. People prefer newer houses these days. The only neighbor was a house across the field, about 100 yards away. It looked nearly identical to theirs. 2 stories, creaking wood, a crooked porch that seemed older than the trees themselves. A family lived there too. A man, a woman, and 2 children. They rarely came outside, but Ethan took comfort in knowing his family wasn't completely isolated. For the first week, life was peaceful. Birds in the morning, silence at night. But soon, small things began to change. One night, Ethan woke up to use the bathroom. Looking out the upstairs window, he frowned. The neighbor's house seemed closer, much closer than before. By morning, it looked normal again. He shook his head. Just my imagination. But over the following days, more strange details appeared. The path from his porch curved differently than it had before. The trees in the backyard seemed rearranged. And the neighbor's house, always across from them, always watching, but somehow in a slightly different place. His wife, Claire, noticed too. "Ethan," she whispered one night, "didn't that house used to be further back?" He swallowed. "Yeah. I thought so too." The children began pointing things out as well. Their daughter, Lily, said she saw kids in the neighbor's yard who looked just like her. "They were playing the same game we were playing, Daddy," she said, voice small. "But when I waved, they didn't stop. They just kept waving." Ethan laughed it off in front of her, but inside, his stomach knotted. The shifting grew worse. Every night, the houses seemed to groan, wood creaking as though dragged by invisible hands. When Ethan marked a spot in the dirt with a large stone cross, he woke the next morning to find the mark 30 feet behind the house. And still, the neighbor's house always faced them, always across the way. One stormy night, everything changed. Thunder rolled across the sky, and rain lashed against the windows. Ethan stayed awake, staring out the glass. Lightning flashed, and for the first time, the neighboring house wasn't there. The field across from theirs was empty. He woke Claire in a panic. "It's gone," he whispered. "The neighbor's house, it's gone." Her eyes widened. She rushed to the window, pressing her face to the glass. Nothing but darkness and trees. For a brief moment they felt relief. But then came the knocking. Slow, deliberate, from inside the walls. Claire clutched Ethan's arm. "That's inside." Another knock. Louder this time. From the hallway. The children began to cry, huddling on the couch. Ethan grabbed a flashlight and crept toward the sound. The beam cut through the darkness, but the hallway was empty. Then he heard a whisper. "We moved in too." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. From inside the wood, the floors, the walls. The house shuddered, a groan deep and alive. The pictures on the walls tilted. A door upstairs slammed shut on its own. Ethan and Claire ran to their children, ready to flee, but when they opened the front door, the world outside wasn't the same. The familiar field was gone. The trees were different, taller, older, twisting unnaturally. The path was no longer there, and when lightning flashed again, they saw it. Across the clearing, standing tall in the storm, was the neighboring house. But it was wrong. Its windows glowed faintly, though no lamps burned inside. Its porch sagged lower, its walls darker, its shape distorted. And in the windows, silhouettes stood, watching. 4 of them. A man, a woman, and 2 children. Identical to Ethan's family. Claire gasped. "Ethan, that's us." The figures moved at the exact same time Ethan's family did, mimicking every motion. When Ethan raised his flashlight, the other Ethan in the window raised one too. They weren't neighbors. They weren't strangers. They were reflections. The storm howled, but the sound inside the house grew louder. Knocking turned into pounding. The walls bulged as if something inside wanted out. The children screamed as footsteps echoed on the second floor, though no one was there. The front door slammed shut on its own. Ethan tried the back door. It opened, but instead of the backyard, there was only darkness, a void stretching endlessly. The whispers grew louder, overlapping dozens of voices. "Stay, stay, stay." Claire clutched Lily and James, sobbing. "What do they want from us?" Ethan turned and his blood froze. The neighboring family was no longer in their house. They were in his. Standing in the hallway, wet and pale, their faces blank copies of his own family. The other Ethan smiled first. Then Claire's double. Then the children's. Perfect, mirrored smiles. Ethan grabbed his family and bolted upstairs, slamming the bedroom door shut. The pounding started instantly, fists against the wood. He shoved a dresser against it, but the knocking didn't stop. Claire held the kids, whispering prayers. Ethan pressed his back to the door, heart hammering. Then he looked toward the window. Outside, the neighboring house was closer again. So close it loomed against theirs, as if the two would soon merge into one. For the first time, Ethan understood. The houses weren't moving through the forest. They were moving toward each other. And when they finally connected, there would be no difference between his family and the ones smiling in the hallway. The whispers rose into a scream. The door splintered. The light flickered. And in the last flash of lightning, Ethan saw his own face grinning at him from the darkness.